Paul. Yes. I was just reading the book of Acts. And this is the red letter edition of the Bible. Yes. Quite often they put the words of Jesus in red letters. Yeah. Now I'm reading the Bible the way that you shouldn't have. You shouldn't. Yes. But it does say it's more blessed to give than to receive. Yeah. Now, in chapter 20, verse 35, I've showed you all things, how that so laboring ye ought to support the weak, and to remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he said, yeah, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Poop. And when he had thus spoken, he kneeled down and prayed with them all, and they all wept sore. Yes. And fell on Paul's neck and kissed him, sorrowing most of all for the words which he spake, that they should see his face no more, and they accompanied him unto the ship. Yes. Now, this concept of giving and receiving, yes, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Now, I've given you a lot of documentation, yes, and I have not received my son's pooch. And I'm one of these that's blessed. I've been blessed for the last, well, 7.5 years. Yeah. And you issued a protection order in 2011 where I did not receive any notice or opportunity to be heard. But the law requires that notice be given to the respondent. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Oh. Now, I think we should talk about this giving, yes, and receiving. See, let's say that you are required by law to report to law enforcement child abuse and child neglect. Yes. And you're a doctor. You're doing pretty well for yourself, making X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Yeah. And the police and sheriff's department do not believe that it's a requirement of law that you must give notice and opportunity to be heard to the respondent. Now, when I had given you the evidence, because I've been giving you a lot of evidence, yes, that after my wife filed for a default dissolution of marriage, yes, she never gave me notice of court hearings. Oh, she said she sent it in the mail. So now, for 7.5 years, I have not had my sons. And the court has had this mindset that if I have a problem with what they do, I need to motion the court. The problem is, if you can't trust the court to do what the law requires, why would I trust them that they would do what the law requires when I motion them? Oh, now there could be a conflict of interest. Let's say Judge Kogenhauer has a dislike for me right now. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Now, yesterday I was talking to you about being blessed, ouch, and then the woes, ouch. And for every medical practitioner that works in a hospital, yes, private practice, yes, or a clinic, yes, that did not do what is required, the actual evidence from a news article, yes, and then the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association, the actual Social Security numbers and birth dates of my sons, you would have thought that that would have sufficed to prove that having students in the wrong grades is actual child abuse and neglect. Now, this concept, right, that you do not have to require that the petitioner does what is required before issuing a dissolution of marriage. There's no requirement of law. Pouch! Now, as I said last night, I was watching television. Yes. And then I turned it to one of those channels where there was nothing on it. There was no subscription to that actual channel. And I just laid there in bed and I thought, how am I going to obligate the enforcement of the law? Now, anytime I have to spend time thinking for myself, I thought, well, I could hitchhike to a different city. Poop. Then I could take in the protection order that I've emailed to millions of email addresses, and they could tell me it's none of my. See, these fucking cops, this idea that I'm trapped. Oops, you have me in a snare. Yes. You've arrested me multiple times. Yes. You arrested me on January 4th of 2016, and you would not admit the exculpatory evidence that I wasn't in Sequim, Washington. Yes. Then you kept me homeless for 3 years and 3 months. Yes, you did. Then you arrested me again for the 2-count criminal complaint in Jefferson County. When I had personally emailed law enforcement on June 16th of 2017 videos that I made in Port Angeles. Now, it looks to me like law enforcement is not going to cooperate. They don't realize the blessings of giving and receiving. When I told you, yes, I wanted to receive custody of my sons, and you said, well, we don't have to do anything. He's homeless. Nobody's going to help him. Pooch. And then I read what is required to report child abuse or neglect. It's obvious to me that you want to cause an immense amount of liability, yes, to every medical practitioner of this nation. Pouch! Because I'll tell you right now, I'll put them all in fucking prison. Now it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I want you blessed today, okay? Because I'll take that fucking hospital and I'll turn it into condominiums. I sat there every Sunday and all holidays for the last 3.5 years. Yes. Making videos and sending emails because of your obstructions of justice. Now, these professional school employees, yes, I would think being a civil rights coordinator, you are a professional school employee. And since I emailed 600 of them and none of them required that law enforcement give me my sons instead of my wife receiving them without any authority of law, I wanted to make sure that I got the rest of the professional school employees. Now, these professional school employees, yes, I would think that they're principals of schools. See, there's the legal liability of having knowledge of fraud, yes, forgery, yes, child abduction, yes, child abuse, yes. And then there's the professional liability. Now, I told you that I will sue every individual in the United States that has the professional, or legal liability for the requirements of the law. Pouch! I mean, every fucking one of them in this fucking school. Now, for every principal that thinks that it is legal, right, to issue a dissolution of marriage where the husband, the father, did not get notice of court hearings, that there was no reciprocity, I will personally take every fucking asset of every principal error. Right? Now, you're going to give or you're going to receive today because I can make a slight adjustment to my schedule. Yes. I could stop sending 2,000 to 3,000 emails a day. Or I could. What are you going to fucking